It did.
There was a lot of hubbub beforehand, but
I know, I was saying that you got me nervous, and then I was okay. I was ready for more of a back and forth, so that was good. Okay, so, all right, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. This is the October 5th meeting of the Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So I think we were going to start with, we have some housekeeping stuff, but since, Mr. Cawley, since you're here, do you want to start with, you want to go through your report? Yes, we will approve the minutes for Terry, since we always seem to forget to do that. We are.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes as written.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, minutes are approved, Terry. Okay, all right, so the floor is yours, Dennis.
I've got,
can I interject real quick?
Yes.
Can we, I don't know how late Mike's gonna be, but I'm wondering if he should be there for, Dennis' presentation, if Dennis doesn't mind waiting a little bit longer.
you want to bring your mic over with you?
Yeah.
Thanks.
I think it will be okay. We can kind of fill him in.
Yeah, I typed one out, wasted some paper, but didn't know.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks for having me. Appreciate being here. You probably all know what the Municipal Taxation and Revenue Committee is all about. Its principal charge is to find places for revenue that don't exist now, to assist the city in avoiding taxation costs, and also to provide services in an appropriate and adequate manner, because all services cost money, and if we don't have money, we can't do the services. So that's basically the mission of the Amtrak Committee. A year or so ago, we were looking around at various businesses, commerce opportunities in the city, and it was clear to us at that point that the business of renting and using low-speed vehicles in Cape May is expanding exponentially. Every year it gets bigger and bigger. At this present moment, there are, I think, 10 or 11 businesses which operate inside Cape May by delivering their carts to people who rent them, or giving the carts to people outside of the city, and then the carts are driven into and around town. So the golf cart usage is expanding quite a bit, and it's, at this point, an unregulated commerce in the city of Cape May. There's no way of knowing how many of these carts are leased and used. There's no revenue coming to the city for this imposition on public services. And as it goes forward, we thought that it would be a good idea to share this concern with you folks, because there are similar concerns in terms of pedestrian, bicycle, and traffic safety throughout the city, and the golf carts are adding to that quite regularly. Now, what we did was we first looked at this little two-page sheet, which I gave you, with a summary of a recommendation. We actually did this in 2021, and we went on to other more pressing issues and put this in the back burner for a while, but it's time to bring this to the forefront to make sure that the City Council understands this issue can be solved. We can make this better by this process that we're going to suggest. There's Mike. Hi, Mike.
Here, I got him. I'll give this to you.
So when we first looked at this issue, we tried to find anything in our statutes or ordinances which covered the use of these things, and we found several things which are interesting but not directly on point. Let me suggest that before we go to the recommendations and the reasons, let's go to the findings to discuss some of these things. In 2014, the City Council approved the use of low-speed vehicles throughout Cape May. And low-speed vehicles were defined, as you know, as a motor vehicle. If it's street-ready, it has to have all of the appurtenances of a street-ready vehicle. And that was done in response to a growing interest in the use of golf carts in Cape May. So that was 2014. Unfortunately, and in the master plan in 2019, the city encouraged the expanded use of golf carts throughout the city as a environmentally sensitive and effective way of keeping the city a little greener and replacing gas-powered vehicles with electric-powered vehicles for use around town. So there's a strong basis for why these things are a good idea. Now, unfortunately, if you look back into the statutes, back in 1997, the city council actually prohibited the rental of things like scooters, motorbikes, motorized bicycles, prohibited them from being rented within the city for safety reasons. And the language in that paragraph is actually taken right from the ordinance. So there was a sort of a general mindset in 1997 that these things might be a little too dangerous for the streets of Cape May. And so we have a second issue added to this concern. One of them is low-speed vehicles. The other is motorized vehicles, scooters, bicycles, those little platform scooters, I think is what we're talking about when we say motor scooters, motorbikes and motor bicycles, which the statute defines differently. So we have an ordinance which prohibits the rental of these things in the city, and yet our daily observations are that these are all over the city. People are using them constantly and more so every day. And so what we were looking at is a way to do two things. Number one, capture some revenue from a business that's operating in our city. And number two, use that revenue to support the increased and more effective enforcement of existing motor vehicle laws so that the people who operate these vehicles in our city are doing it in a safe and appropriate manner. So basically, our recommendation is two-pronged. Number one, anybody who rents a vehicle, a low-speed vehicle, a golf cart, for use in the city, for delivery into the city, for any purpose within the streets of Cape May, has to be, our recommendation would be, has to be registered with the city. So, and in that registration process, we would ensure that the vendor has proper insurance, that the renter, the customer has proper training, they're properly equipped with helmets and seatbelts and what have you, and that as they use these vehicles in the city, our police department will be able to say very clearly that there's a use that's being properly done versus a use that's not being properly done. In other words, these are enforcement tools that we can use to control the impact of golf carts in particular on the city streets. The way we do it basically is, as I said before, create a system in which a merchant or a businessman who's operating, and there's 11 of them, 10 or 11 of them right now within a drive of Cape May. Anybody who sends or drives a golf cart in to one of his customers has got to be able to tell the city, to assure the city that the vehicle is legal with respect to the use of that vehicle on our streets, and that the users of it are trained properly. So basically, we're talking about a recommendation which, in a sense, organizes the use of low-speed vehicles in the city without impairing the growth and productivity of these vehicles, because most of us probably, people at this table probably have one.
It's my second car.
In the interest of full disclosure, I have one too. I had one of the first ones, and I think it's a great idea, but we need to make everybody safe enough so that we don't worry about golf carts. So our proposal would be, our suggestion would be for you folks to review this with respect to your charter, and see whether or not you could join us in supporting this before the council. And that's about it, I guess.
Okay. So my questions, and forgive me because I'm not up on all of New Jersey laws.
Yeah.
What does the state require as far as low-speed
A motor
vehicles?
vehicle, a low-speed vehicle, a golf cart, has to be registered. It has to be street-ready with equipment that allows it to be operated on the streets. The operator has to have, the owner of it has to have insurance and registration. The operator has to be a licensed driver and properly equipped,
So how,
just like a car.
yeah, so,
And most of them cannot go above unless they adjust the speed, which, most people I don't think are doing that, but.
Aftermarket.
25 miles an
Right.
hour to 29. I mean, our old golf cart, actually, we could get it up to 29.
Downhill.
But for the most part, they're 25.
okay.
Well, and as you operate golf carts, as you know, there are actually places in Cape May that are hills. So Washington Street is one of them. As I drive my golf cart up Washington Street, it slows down because it crests a small hill at the physical state. It doesn't look like it, but it does. So they're very sensitive to the slope of the road.
So they're not the ones necessarily speeding around
Right.
the city because they can't. But I support this from the standpoint of what I watch out there, from the standpoint of safety and what they're doing, people not seatbelted, alcohol on board. I mean, it is exactly like a vehicle. There's no difference than,
And our raising of this issue, as I said, Mike was there when we did this last year. Our raising it was primarily, hey, it's a business and they're not kicking in. And now a second and equally important layer to this is they're all over the place. They're all over the place. And what can we do to maintain some sort of control and order over their use? And the best way to do it we came up with was have them decaled so that the police officer who stops a vehicle doing something wrong will be able to say, you're doing something wrong, and why isn't this vehicle registered? Because the registration, the decal, is a verification that there was insurance provided, that there was training to the driver provided, and that the driver was equipped properly. If the decal is almost like an assumption, a rebuttable presumption that this vehicle is not properly registered if it doesn't have a decal, and we were trying to give the police department a little more ammunition to enforce these kinds of standards in our use. Yeah.
Couple questions here.
Put your mic on.
The owners who are selling these commercially, are they paying mercantile licenses?
Not in Cape May. They're not a business operating in Cape May. Like, for example.
I'm talking about Cape May, the businesses that are in Cape May that are renting these.
There are no businesses in Cape May that rent golf carts.
Oh, they're not?
No.
yeah, there is.
No, they're,
And also, Italia's over on Park Avenue. They
no,
rent.
the Park Avenue, they're not. in
Park
Cape May.
Avenue's not Cape May.
They're not in
Okay.
Cape May.
No, but you have the young lifeguard, I forget his name, he's
Yeah.
selling, he operates out of West Cape May, but he sells in Cape May.
Well, see,
He rents in Cape May.
that's the problem. They operate, their businesses operate. A mercantile license is something given by a municipality to a business that operates in that municipality. With the product of that business can go anywhere. So the shops, the 11 shops that rent golf carts and deliver them into Cape May, none of those are located in Cape May.
Correct.
So we as a city, we capture no revenue from those businesses to help us regulate their commerce.
Mike, real quick, Dennis, I know I'm a little bit late coming in, but the one, you're asking for some type of decal to go
Yeah.
on a golf cart. Outside of a vehicle registration? That's gonna be hard to do, it's gonna be almost illegal. To the point where if you have a tag on your back of your vehicle, that's all you should have. You shouldn't have to be required to put something on there other than a juvenile driver sticker. You're asking for them to put a sticker on there that they've been insured and everything. That's what the license really gives them.
I checked with Chris about this. and
Check
he's-
with Chris Gillingsports?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he said it was okay.
Okay.
That can be worked out.
Whoever else is talking.
Oh, that's Chief
sorry.
Fashaw. Chief Fashaw's here. I'll fill you in. I'm taking notes. This is Terry on the phone.
Gotcha, yeah. Poor Terry. I'm just trying, I'm backtracking, just trying to figure out where we're
Right.
going with this. So is this for just businesses or everyone, including yourself who has a golf cart?
Recommendation also says that if you're a resident of Cape May and you have a golf cart,
You got to register it?
all you have to do is come to the city clerk's office and get a $2 decal to put on your golf cart that says resident, Cape May resident. We're not interested in regulating private use of these things.
How do you regulate something coming from West Cape May?
Yeah.
But how
Yeah,
do
so
you,
Chief, that was my question.
how do you,
So-
West Cape May Point, I'm down for the weekend, I'm at the Depot Campground, how do you regulate that? Like, you can require Cape May residents to do it, but now I've got all these golf carts coming from West Cape May.
We could extend that privilege. If it's under your jurisdiction, again, this is flexible, but
Yeah.
we could extend that privilege to any jurisdiction you patrol.
Which is
So
all
if there's
three.
somebody in Cape May Point that has a golf cart, why not? I mean, we're giving them police
Right.
coverage, so.
Dennis, do we know what the requirements are now? If I rent a golf cart from any of those, West Cape May, Talia's Place, whatever, if I rent a golf cart, do they have a lease agreement? What's in that agreement?
Yeah,
Does
they
it
do.
have about
They
safety
do.
features?
I've met with Talia on that one, not to go over you, Dennis, but I've met with Talia because she's pretty prominent in the area. She rents a lot of golf carts. She
Right.
does, most of the golf cart places don't rent to anyone under the age of 21.
I'm sorry?
Under the age of 21. They don't rent to people under the, it's just like a car rental, like 25, you have to be
Correct.
to rent a car. I know, even for the Surreys and for the golf carts, under 21, they don't rent. I know Tom Roth doesn't rent any golf cart, or Surreys, but the golf carts per se, 21 or older.
And
They don't
that's-
make them present insurance as a huge liability thing they fill out.
That's what I was asking. They actually
There's
have a
rules, like,
document that they.
there's a document that Talia gives them, there's
It's like renting a
rules.
car. Renting a car.
So my question on, currently, if there is a golf cart breaking a motor vehicle law, you can pull them over, you can give
And
them
we
a
do.
citation or a ticket or what have you.
Yeah, we do for them, if they have their child unseat belted, if they're driving with their child in their hand, a beer in their hand, something, obviously, we stop for motor vehicle infractions.
Okay.
A lot.
And underage operation too is.
Yeah, if we notice someone that's, looks a little bit underage, we definitely stop them on that. I mean, like Dennis is saying, we have a ton of golf carts that are just overtaking our towns.
Right.
But at the same time, we can't be green and ask for green coverage if you don't accept golf
Right.
carts.
And by the way, that's kind of the reason why we suggested this in the first place, because this is an imposition on existing resources, and we don't have the resources to enforce this law. We'll need more people. And so if you're regulating a business, that mercantile license supports the enforcement of that regulation. That would go to the police department to expand staff. We tell the police department all the time that we recommend spending more money for enforcement, because that's the only way that the residents and the taxpayers and the visitors can feel comfortable about the quality of life in this town. Reinforcement.
Dennis, I absolutely appreciate that because I'm going to ask for 4 to 5 more police officers.
And I've told you, I'll support that.
You know,
Well,
how
you
hard
know,
he
if you're
had-
talking about.
how hard he
that
had to work for
They're
two.
using resources, so are bicycles, especially electric bicycles,
Now, there's-
those Surreys and all that. So are you going to impose this on all bicycles coming
Now-
into Cape May?
I'm glad you asked that question, because this really does open up a second issue, and that is the electric bikes.
Yeah,
And the people who rent the golf carts also rent the electric bikes.
right.
And the electric bikes there's 3 kinds, actually, under the statute, and 2 of them are almost completely without regulation. They don't have to be registered, they don't have to have insurance. The bicycles that are self-powered, up to a certain speed, I think it's 20 miles an hour, those vehicles can be used anywhere by anyone without restriction of any kind. And those things are being rented as well. Now, the third category is a motor scooter, which is kind of like halfway between a bike and one of those Italian things that everybody used to have all the time. That's a motor scooter. That is.
Vespas, yeah.
Yeah, Vespa, right. That is regulated. That is a motor vehicle, and that requires registration and insurance. but the other two don't. And the popularity, this, by the way, comes about, Governor Murphy in 2019 passed a law that basically gave unfettered permission to use electric bikes anywhere you want to, in the interest of environment and consumer or commuter needs. So, I mean, it's a huge market in the state of New Jersey, even bigger in New York City.
Dennis, is there a fee structure here? So if someone does not have a tag or a sticker that you recommend, and if someone doesn't have a tag or a sticker that you recommend, is this a resolution or an ordinance that I would?
Yeah, it would have to be. This is not our proposal.
Okay.
The ordinance would be.
And what's the fee structure there? Like you're saying $75 here, but
Yeah. All those kinds of things that go with the trappings of an ordinance would be put in there. We're only talking at this point of whether or not this would be a good idea, to have the city work out an ordinance that would regulate the use of golf carts from the perspective of a business operating in town.
only the businesses, so.
Well, no, yeah.
But the homeowner would still have to follow this as well?
Yeah, the business, well, homeowner would have to follow the operation rules, just like anybody else would.
But does the homeowner have to get a sticker?
Yeah, like I said, we'd suggest giving the homeowner a $1 or $2 sticker to stick on their vehicle that says, I'm a resident, this is a resident LSV,
Who gives out the stickers?
clerk.
They're gonna love you. They're gonna love you.
Well, I know, but
The beach tag office is already overwhelmed.
if I could figure out a way to set up a separate office, I would, but it all goes back to the city government. And it's a task that's going to have to, well, we have a choice. We could do nothing, because under the current regulations, whatever has happened this year with golf carts and motorized bicycles is going to be escalated next year.
Yeah.
It's not going to get smaller. The impact is going to get bigger.
I agree.
And by the way, when you're riding a bicycle and you run over a pedestrian in a crosswalk, and you're on a bicycle, that's one thing. And I go back to that chart you guys put in the ordinance last night. If you're on a motorized bicycle and you're going 25 miles an hour and you hit a pedestrian, that's a different issue. And so this is really almost like a pedestrian safety issue as well.
I mean, with the ordinance last night, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
It would be the same law. It would still be the same law.
The problem with last night's ordinance, and I'm not disagreeing with it, but now that we've lowered the speed limit in 20 days here or so to 20 miles an hour, I now have to radar golf carts. That's just where I didn't have to radar them. I now have to sit and run radar for golf carts, because if they're going over 20 miles an hour, then they're speeding in town. But difficult to do because Pittsburgh Avenue, Broadway, there's other streets that are now still 25 that aren't dropping to 20, and I don't know that the county's going to drop them to 20.
Right.
Have you heard anything back
Have
from the
not.
county on that?
Have not.
So I'm still a 25, 20 mile an hour town where it's like, we were just this morning trying to figure out how to send this message out to patrol. And
I think you're okay with the golf cart because they can't go much over 25.
they can't go, they shouldn't unless they're
Yeah.
unregulated, but 25 is their top speed
That's
per
what we're
se.
working on.
Well, my experience is I have never, and I know your golf cart may have gone 29 miles an hour. I have never driven behind a golf cart that's doing 25. I can tell you, I'm always having to slow down
Yeah.
and follow the golf cart at a lower speed. Whether or not they're doing it if they got it to the floor or if they're doing it intentionally, they definitely go slow. But the good news with, I mean, I don't want to say don't radar the golf carts, but, the data that we're showing and what we're trying to protect is, bicyclists and pedestrians from being hit at a speed higher than 20 miles per hour at any intersection. The good news is the golf cart certainly would not have the same data. It's a lighter, smaller.
Right.
I don't want to, again,
Yeah, no,
minimize
that's
that,
correct.
but I'm just saying that the risk of a golf cart doing,
Right. I get your point.
creating a fatality is not going to probably
I think the issue I see driving in the golf cart is the cars, like you're saying, that's frustrated behind me, who now decide to zip across, including the bike lane. They come up the right side of you, come up the
Yeah.
left side of you, because they don't want to wait, so,
Yeah, they get frustrated, just like a trolley or a horse and carriage, you get
Yep.
frustrated in town, but
yep.
I don't disagree with this, I just think that we just need to vet it and see how it's gonna work, you know?
Can the
And-
key, maybe the kiosk out here can hand out, I don't know what you need to do to register. You just need a registration form to get the sticker for a city resident,
For
right?
city residents, yeah.
But in here, you're saying if you drive it or registered a vehicle or drive in Cape May, so everybody that drives into Cape May is gonna have to have this. So if you live in West Cape May, this is gonna cross over to their town. Or if they stay in West Cape May.
Well, somebody who lives in, I guess our assumption making that recommendation is that somebody who lives in West Cape May and has a golf cart is going to drive that golf cart into Cape May on a regular basis.
Okay.
Agree. Agree.
Right.
There are no
Absolutely.
borders. There's
Absolutely.
no practical borders between our two towns.
No, there's definitely not. And so my question is to them is, hey, I don't live in Cape May, but you're saying if you drive
Same
in
with
Cape May.
bicycles. If somebody's in West Cape May
Yeah.
and owns a bicycle, to come into Cape May, they're gonna use that bicycle.
Of course. There's no distinction in the mind of tourists or even us, basically, between these towns. We go wherever we want to go, and it's just a big town. When we get laws like the marijuana law and maybe this, then it gets a little confusing because then you say, well, where's the border between the two towns? But in practical terms, on a daily basis, this is all Cape May. Everything below the canal is Cape May, basically, in our mind. And again, I'm going to go back to why we got here. This is something that we're about money and revenue, our committee, and we're trying to figure out ways to get enough money to perform the services that people expect us to perform. It's clear from just public sentiment that I've seen, everybody's seen it this year, the public is less and less comfortable with golf carts and electric bicycles being operated throughout the city. It's just a reality. If you've talked to people, you've probably talked a lot to friends and neighbors, that is this going to get any worse? Is it going to get bigger? It is going to get bigger. And the problem is, it's a business that's operating in town for which there is no control by the city government. And if there's any reason for having mercantile licenses or even municipal ordinances, the city is required to protect the welfare and public safety of its residents. These vehicles are an increasing threat to the public safety and welfare of the citizens.
I disagree with that particular statement, because I don't think, as we just said, the LSVs can't go more than 25. I think the issue is, it's what I've noticed, at least, and not everybody, it appears to be when, these people have a rental,
Yeah.
and, they have and I see it because I live in Village Green, so we see rentals all the time. They get their cart delivered, and next minute, the 16-year-old, the 14-year-old is riding down to the next street where the family's renting, the next
Yeah,
block
I
up.
stand corrected. It isn't the vehicles. It's the use
the
and
operators.
unregulated
Absolutely.
control of those vehicles. That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's not the vehicles. If that were true, why would I own one?
Correct. But I think that is what you hear a lot, or you read about,
Yeah.
especially on Facebook, that's all the time, is about the LSVs. And it's
These
not, the
damn golf
LSVs
carts.
are not the ones speeding around town, guys. It's the operators of those, which typically, not all, because, people could own one and have family members, out-of-towners that are, using it.
And by the way, the rentals, most of the time, the rentals are the bigger ones, the 6-passenger ones. And operating one of those is clearly a different mode. They run differently, they ride differently, they turn differently, and people who never drove one rent it, bring it down from Swainton on a truck, they deliver it to their house, and then they're off. They have no idea what they're doing because they've never driven one before. And then they run into one of your guys, and yeah, what's the problem? I rented it.
Well, they take the corners very quick and
Yeah,
things like that. you just
and
see.
it's a high vehicle. The six passengers are higher. Their center of gravity is too high. Anyway, that's what we want to do. If you guys would like to join us, I think we'll push forward on this, but I don't want to push too far forward without some linkage to this committee, because this committee, the purpose of this committee is the very reason why we should be doing this, to protect people. Bicycle safety, pedestrian safety, traffic safety. To us, it's a no-brainer. Otherwise, we got a business running in town, for which we have no control.
Holly, can I say something?
Yes, go for it.
Okay, a few things. One is, we also have those little old-fashioned scooters with motors on them. Are they included, are they a consideration? It would be kind of the same thing as an electric bike, correct?
It depends upon their
That listed
CC, if
in
it's a
there,
moped or,
As
Yeah,
well?
see what it looks like.
Talking like a moped, like a,
No, it's like, as little kids, we used to push a scooter.
Oh,
You
a
know, with
motorized
handle thing.
skateboard kind of thing.
yeah.
There are electric
That's
ones out there
unregulated.
too, so I would advise to add that to the list. I don't know what they're specifically called. You understand what I'm talking about, correct?
yeah, they're unregulated though.
Yeah, I mean,
No.
they have motorized skateboards now, too. I mean,
Yeah, they got those, the
Yeah.
Uniskate.
And frankly, I mean, if you think,
Skateboards.
So we're looking to regulate the golf carts. So how are we addressing electric bike rentals?
that's a great question. I was about to say it, but you said it first. The easier thing to do is to regulate the golf carts, because they're registered motor vehicles, and we can do that. The problem with the bicycles, the scooters, and the mopeds, some of them fall into a category that the state has said they cannot be regulated. Their use is unfettered.
Okay.
And so this committee, if that issue is a problem, this committee will work with you on it to try and figure out ways around it. But this committee's job would be to address that issue. Find a way that we can get out from under the Murphy law that lets these vehicles operate with impunity. We understand the environmental value of electric vehicles, but it's caused a problem. It's almost like the plastic bag issue. It was a good idea, but it's caused a lot of problems. And the problems are scooters.
I think that's something that maybe we talk about down the road, because, man, that is huge to try to regulate all those bikes.
I think the easier,
So my opinion would be, at the moment, just put that aside, because it's too big of an issue. My other question is, have you talked to West Cape May administration about what you're looking to do for their businesses and regulate them from our end of Cape May City? Has that been approached?
No, not by our committee, no.
I would say with that, Terry, then what you,
Oh, hold on.
the two things, Terry, real quick. The first thing with the regulation of the e-bikes, et cetera, I have actually went out to all of the bike rental places that actually do it in West Cape May. There's none in Cape May Point and Cape May City proper. So what you're asking for there is some type of, it's unfettered, but there's a way to do it without doing that. We can require or ask them, and I asked Pedgo and I've asked Tom Roth. Dennis at the Village Bike Shop doesn't do any rentals of e-bikes. I said, listen, after the one vehicle accident we had with the lady that drove into the tractor trailer from Pedgo, I said, do you require helmets on all of your people? Well, we offer them, and people don't take them. I said, well, the thing is this, they can't leave here anymore without taking them. I said, so my suggestion to them was to make sure that they have a helmet on, to make sure that they leave here. I said, I don't care if they take it off down the block, but as a business, you should require them to leave your establishment. So I think you can come up with a set of guidelines to give to them. They're receptive enough that we don't have to necessarily mandate or regulate it. I think we can come into an agreement with all of them in the room like this and say, will you require this, 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 and this? And do you have regulations that the bike renter can follow? That's the one part of it. Your other question,
The issue on the helmets, though, as I said, it was unfettered statutory control, but there is an element, and the helmets are the issue. They're required, even though they're not required for insurance or registration. The operator under the age of 15 is required to wear a helmet.
Under 17, actually.
Pardon me, 17, you're right, it's under 17. So when Deke goes out and asks that merchant, are you doing this? Yes, we tell them they have to wear a helmet. When they go down Perry Street, 20 minutes later, is he gonna run down and make sure that they're wearing a helmet? It's not, they know they have to wear a helmet, they're just not gonna do it. And so when that vehicle arrives on the streets of Cape May, that is something a police officer can stop somebody on a electric bicycle and say, the law requires how old are you, first of all? And if you're under 17, the law requires you to wear a helmet. Where's your helmet?
Right, and that ticket goes to the parent. So, yeah, that's, I think the biggest thing is making sure that the bike rentals push it and get the recommendations to them and get it out, because even like Pedgo rents bikes and golf carts. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You know,
I
so,
do. Yeah, most of them are getting into them.
they're all getting into it, it's all there, so.
Okay. All right, one more thing.
I got
Oh, wait, hold on 1 second. Oh, go, finish up.
Go ahead, Terry.
Go ahead, Terry.
Okay, was thinking, if we're gonna, if this goes through and there's gonna be some more revenue coming in,
I'm taking it all.
think about, because we always go back to enforcement. Could we think about, which one of the suggestions we've made is getting a public safety officer. And this could be, using that revenue, even if it's just a part-time public safety officer, that this would be a big part of their job and I don't know how it all works as a public safety officer, exactly how it works with the police chief and the other officers. But couldn't this be an idea that we would be generating some revenue, and we could have somebody specifically take a load off our police department and have this as a point person to do that kind of job in the city of Cape May?
The problem lies there, Terry, is I appreciate that, but in adding staff, my plan during my budget cycle here, and Neil Young's in the other room listening, he's probably going to be mad at me, but we're going to obviously ask for a little bit more money to support more staff, because that person you're asking to be like an ambassador of the bike helmets or bike laws pretty much should be a class 1 or higher, so a meter person, so they can, don't stick your head out here, Neil. That person, I think that's where we can funnel some of that money back into, into the project, because if you're going to ask that person to go out there and stop people, they're going to have a little bit of bite or teeth to it, because if the person says, no, I'm not listening to you, then what do? That officer, that person you speak of, should have the authority as a class 1 at least to issue a summons for not having your helmet on, not following the regulations. You know what I mean? It could be a code enforcement officer as well, but I'd rather it be a class 1 or 2, and then, we're looking to hire more of them. My budget is around $210,000 for them. At 17 and 18 and $20 an hour, I run out really quick. So that's where some of that money can be funneled, or at least in some of this other money that we speak of that Dennis has found in hotel revenue, et cetera, to pay for that. So I need more bike staff, and I need more physical staff. We spoke about it last night, Mary, about having someone on the mall to kick the bikes off the mall, the dogs off the mall. Like, if I get my full complement of class 2s, I can help that. You know what I mean?
And I think this might dovetail into whatever Lorraine's going to work with, I guess.
Yes.
Budget for next year is what money gets funneled to this enforcement, whatever this enforcement looks like.
Every time you have conversations, everyone says enforcement. Well, what I'm going to ask is for these groups, Dennis's group, your group as well, M-Track and the Bike Safety, to support that when I ask for more cops and to do these enforcement things, like right now I have 3 officers working the street. I have 3 towns, so I'm a little light, where the mention of Wildwood Crest last night was, they've write a lot of tickets. They have 5 to 6 officers working a squad. That's not command staff, that's not white shirts, that's 6 officers working on the street in Wildwood Crest. They don't have any bars. They have straightaways, they have straightaways, so.
And this has been a theme that we've pushed for the last 2 years, and that is that the taxpayer and the resident and the visitor expect a quality service when they're here. And the city's job is to provide that service. If they don't do that because they don't have enough money, then let's start spending some money. The MTRAC committee, and I'll just tell you this as by way of background for why I say that, the MTRAC committee recommended last year that they increase the occupancy tax to the statutory limit, which was 3%. The city did that. That simple act has produced $1.8 million over and above what we already collect from that.
And it's looking to
When
increase.
that becomes public, our response, the MTRAC's response is, that's what we expected to do. Now start spending some of that money because we can do a better job of enforcing our regulations. We can, we have to. We're not, it isn't the best. No, nothing is perfect. We can always do a better job. But when Deeks people come to the table and say, I need more money, they're asking for more money to do what they're already required to do.
Right, so it's hard to enforce, with lights, David, and I
Yeah.
know, I can't keep saying
And so
I'm
every time you add-
understaffed.
Every time you add a new task to any part of the government, you either have to eat into your existing revenue or you have to come up with new revenue to help them do that. And that's the MTRAC's job, is to find ways to fund this stuff without going to the deep pockets of the taxpayer.
Right, and one of the things that Mr. Young has done, and City Council and the Manager's Office, Neil was directing me toward grant funding, so we applied for a grant with the assistance of the city, and we hopefully, within this month, I'll have an answer for 4 more police officers under a grant from the DOJ, which will support 3 officers for 3 years, or 4 officers for 3 years, and help with, it's $41,000 a year for the officer. That's a huge amount it's like $600,000 that could help, and then some of this extra revenue and that $1.8 million could help with health benefits and uniforming these officers and buying another car. So I'm getting there. My goal is to get to 28 to 30 officers in the city of Cape May. We're there now. I'm working with 21, 22 officers right now, and I'm asked every meeting and I appreciate it, every meeting that someone says, well, you're not enforcing this. And I get up and I defend my officers because they are, but they're at a deficit starting out the gate because I require them to do so much during the day, like do training. They come in, they do training, they do this, they do that. So the increase of officers will not be lost or forgotten on the city because we're there and we've overpopulated this city and congested it with golf carts, bikes, people. They love coming to Cape May. The fire department included, we need to staff these departments, lifeguards, et cetera, for public safety because that's what the MTRAC has spoken of just being public safety driven. Mr. Yeager and the crew on the council, public safety driven. Like we can't invite these people here and not be able to protect them. And this I think will work. I think so. I didn't mean to come off as not agreeing with it in the beginning, but I think it will work. And I think your question, Mary, is have we spoken to West Cape May? And we always kind of forget about Cape May Point, but they need to have the buy-in and say, okay, we'll adopt this as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And Mayor Sabo was about that because she adopted the 20 mile an hour quickly when Mayor Mullock went to her about it. And I think it worked.
It is a good idea to pull these issues apart and let's let the bike thing sit on the side for a while because it does compound the issue. I think that suggestion she made was a good one. If we could just take a look at that, so.
I have to cut out real quick. I have another appointment at 10. I apologize, and I'll follow back up.
Oh, wait, hold on. Jim had something.
Yeah, Jim.
Just my comment is that we're identifying here golf carts to use city property and services for that. But we're not identifying that for vehicles from out of town, motorcycles, bicycles, anything else. So we're picking on golf carts. We're identifying that as our revenue source. But it seems to me we're discriminating against golf carts without taking into effect all these other vehicles that are from out of town that are using the city streets.
I think they're currently regulated, though. I think the golf carts are unregulated, and I think this gives us some control over golf carts. I don't know that we need to do cars.
When you
Well,
say they're
bicycles are unregulated too.
Sorry?
Well, as a motor vehicle, you regulate their use on the streets right now. The difference, Jim, is in my mind, to respond to your question, the difference is that golf cart isn't like the family auto, where you come to town, park somewhere, go to dinner, go to the beach. That golf cart, you rent a house, and somebody from Swainton delivers a golf cart to your house, and then you use it for 7 days, and then he takes it back, and somebody else uses it for 7 days. It isn't the same, if I could use this term, it isn't the same stream of commerce. It's a new thing that's happening. And if it were the same, then you could come to Cape May on a bus and have somebody deliver a car to your house. But it's not the same situation. You see what I mean?
It's just like a rental car. I mean, some of these people come in on plane, they rent a car from Philly and they drive into Cape May. I mean, I understand what you're saying about regulating, are we discriminating against golf carts? I think golf carts are our current agenda and problem. That's what we're seeing more of.
But when we say, I think a little bit of I see where you're going, and I would, again, support it, but I guess one of the things, we're mixing a little bit of everything in this. When you say these businesses are creating significantly increasing burden, how are we supporting that? Are we? Is it creating a huge
Yes,
burden for you?
it
Do you
is.
have actual, numbers of tickets that have been given out to these to these LSVs? And do we know whether they're coming from a specific vendor? For instance, we seem to have, the guy up in Swainton's people they seem to be the ones I'm pulling over for not being seatbelted. Maybe they're not doing a good enough job at their business enforcing, letting those people know before they rent that, you have to do X, Y, Z.
I think this type of thing that Dennis is recommending from the committee will help, because that will have to go out to the guy in Rio Grande, the guy in Swainton, and anybody that comes in and wants to do business here, they're going to have to apply and have the regulations here. But I can't tell you that this certain vendor is a problem in Cape May. I can tell you that tickets have been issued for golf cart violations. They will continue to be issued, and we do have, it's just increasing, and it's just getting, I won't say worse. It's what you want. You want less carbon, and you want to reduce our carbon footprint. So you can't say, we want to heavily regulate golf carts and keep cars. We want more golf carts.
Correct.
But we want them to be driven safely
But
and
we
a
want them to be
reasonable
safe,
manner.
Yeah.
And I think this will help.
And this definitely, this provides this demands the education of the people that are renting these golf carts.
key.
Yeah, thanks, Chief.
That's the key.
As people that drive cars, get their license, they know what all the rules are, and they don't drive with the baby in their lap in the front seat. They don't do that, but golf cart drivers do. So these regulations will be instructing people that you don't do that. There are rules. You have to drive this thing like a car and pay the $75 for this one cart and make sure, we want to see what you're giving to all your customers.
It's almost as,
Let's make sure they're
it's
educated.
almost like a simplistic approach to say, just let's stop for a minute. Hey, there's rules here, as opposed to no rules. It's worth it to just stop everything and say, it's gone far enough. From now on, these are the rules you follow. And these are not complicated rules.
Because it shouldn't ruin it for the
No,
people that are following the
no,
rules.
and the rules are already in place. I have just two quick observations. I have a home on a speedway in town called Massachusetts Avenue, nice and wide.
Yeah.
I can hear these golf carts coming from a distance because of their tires.
Yeah.
And so they're louder than cars. I mean, every time I hear this thing come along, I pick up my head and look. It's amazing. And then, of course, they're all loaded down with families and no seat belts, and they're probably headed to the Seaview Tavern in many cases and that type of thing, but
Yeah.
who knows? But
On a wild ride home, yeah.
there's no question that what you're saying needs to go further. We need to act on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay.
All right, I'm sorry I took too much.
You know what, while we're checking, I'm sorry, Hal, go ahead.
Thank you for your time.
I just wanted to ask one other
No,
question.
he's
Let
not.
her-
Yeah, don't
Go
let
ahead.
me in.
let her
All right.
finish.
Go ahead.
Dennis, I can hear you well. So I didn't hear response about public safety officer. My feeling,
I'll fill you in on that. He went through it.
so if it's not to be done, what I was going to say, to add to your recommendation for number 7, is to add one more bullet point, that we have a public safety officer to oversee the regulation and enforcement. Is what was said, that's not applicable?
No, yeah, it doesn't really apply, because he was talking about the different classes of officer that would need to be able to basically issue citations and things like that. So, yeah, so it wouldn't necessarily be just a code enforcer, you would need like a Class 1 officer. So the chief has plans to kind of increase the officer pool anyway. So, as I said, I'll fill you in on the details.
Okay, but I guess my feeling is that before Dennis leaves, that we should make a motion that we support and would like to be kept in the loop to the final proposal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any reason, yeah, because this is still just a proposal at this point, yeah.
What I'll do is I'll edit this to cut that bike part out and just leave it to golf carts.
And the other question I had,
Add a paragraph that said there are parallel problems with bikes, but this resolution is not addressing that.
Yeah, but I don't want to see us, Terry's suggesting that we kind of put that aside because it's more complex than it is, but we've talked about this, and we felt strongly the bikes are going to be important, but I don't disagree. You make this, you can get this going faster if you just stick with the golf carts, and then later we'll come back.
A codicil to it that says we're equally concerned with the impact of bike rentals and electric bikes, which we'll deal with at some future date.
Well, you want somebody from this committee with you, or are you just going to do this to presentation yourself?
Well, we have an Amtrak. You're going to go tomorrow? Stacy said she was going to ask you to go to the Amtrak meeting in her place.
Well, if I'm allowed to, I'd be glad to go to the Amtrak meeting.
why don't you
But
go?
no, Stacy didn't say anything.
Stacy's not going, so
Oh.
you would be the.
Well, then I will
person.
be there.
All right, good.
one question I had, because we just bought our new golf cart, we went from a 4 to a 6-seater, we didn't do the lifted, which is what you're talking about, the higher up. The regulations, what I'm noticing is, we were told that, you need to have a full windshield, you need the emergency brake. There's a lot of golf carts that are still being rented out there that do not have that, so how are we addressing that particular issue from the standpoint of the NJ
I think they're
requirements?
grandfathered, but I also think that drop-down windshield is okay.
If you read when we bought it, at the time, New Jersey did not have that. Some states do, that it has to be a full windshield with windshield wiper, et cetera. When we bought it, I bought that because of the resale. I was thinking resale later down the road. I saw something, and I don't know if Deacon put it out, but somewhere I saw that actually has changed in New Jersey, that it's required. So it's just something, again, part of your regulatory,
Yeah, I'll check that.
something from the standpoint of making sure that they're also following those kinds of rules, you know
I'll
what I mean?
check that. Okay. Okay,
thank
thanks a
you.
lot.
Do we need to make an official motion to support it, or I think, wait until we have something more, this is just once we have a,
Well, you
more
can make
fleshed
a
out, I
motion,
think.
you can make a motion preliminarily supporting the concept pending submission of a draft.
right. Okay, sounds good. So we're going to make a motion to support
Concept.
the concept for the low-speed vehicle decals, and we're going to, pending the final draft.
Right.
Okay,
Don't put me down as making that motion. I'm not a member of the.
I know. Hillary made the motion. Anybody second?
You can put
Okay,
second.
Mary's going to second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you, Dennis, appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay. See you, Mike. Right. You can go on about your business now.
All right.
See you later.
Thanks, take care.
Just for the record,
Still there?
No.
No, he left.
Okay.
For the record?
Yeah.
I did not say aye.
Okay,
Congratulate about the 20 miles per hour.
okay. All right, I'll fill her in. For the record, Jim did not do an aye for the vote. Ms. Secretary,
Okay.
thank you.
One.
And technically, Jeff wasn't in the room either, so.
Oh, well,
Jim, I'd like to know what's going on.
Pardon me?
Why did you not vote for it?
Because I go back
Hold
to
on,
what
hold
we
on.
said in the master
Hold on.
plan in 2019, we're trying to encourage, and I think this discourages both the owners and the commercial people, and now they gotta pay $75 on this. And I would rather see us promoting golf carts and their safety rather than trying to collect money for it.
It's just from the vendors, correct?
Pardon me?
It's just from the vendors.
No, it's from out-of-town people, like you and I. If we have a golf cart and we want to bring Cape May, we gotta pay $75.
No, it's
No, no,
$2.
No, that's not true.
The vendor.
No, you would not. Actually, anybody living in West Cape May Point, I would just recommend that we give the same stickers to those municipalities and let them hand them out. Well,
Right.
it will be. I mean, it'll be clear that the only people paying will be the vendors. And the reason is because the vendors are the only communication to the people renting. They've got to be educated.
Two here, it says, each, require the owner of each commercially leased or rented vehicle operating within the municipal limits. Each vehicle would be $75.
Okay.
Owner of each commercially leased or rented vehicle. So maybe it's the rented
Bringing
vehicle.
them
that
in on
maybe
trailers?
Yeah.
Mixed it up a little bit.
Hear that question? So Terry just asked, do we see a lot of out-of-towners bringing these, either vendors or people bringing these carts in on, LSVs in on trailers?
I have not seen that, but I think recently, yes. I've heard recently that has started where people are bringing their own vehicle in a U-Haul or whatever to the shore, because quite frankly, a friend of mine was going to rent one for the week, and they're not cheap. They're like $900 or something for the week yeah, they're pretty expensive to rent. So they can afford the $75, probably registration
So
fee.
on his recommendation, number 7, is that addressed about, out-of-town, carts must register? And I would just say, you don't charge them, if it's a personal one, you don't charge them. They should just show that they own them, and then they just get a decal.
Yeah, I think that's like I think what they're trying to do. I feel like that's going to be the kind of the enforcement challenge to figure out some of that. But yeah, that's the proposal.
But what difference does it make if they're a resident or not, if they're breaking the law?
Right.
Right, they shouldn't get a pass.
So,
Right.
and let me just remind us that our issue is safety.
Right.
We're not worried about the nuts and bolts of taxation and revenue and all that.
Right.
Our issue is just safety. Let's just stick to that.
Yeah, I agree. Okay.
But there is a financial element to this.
There is, and we can certainly comment on it, but that's his ball of wax.
Right.
I s-
Question to be thorough, not that there's that many, but just to add that to what they're proposing, that's all. Anybody that brings one in personally, what's gonna happen? It's the same thing as people in town that have their own personal ones. They need to register it and get a sticker. So, that's an aside,
I don't think we need to register, and I don't think that I saw that they actually have to register. They do have to have the decal. Because again, you're actually, that was my question when the chief said he wasn't sure if that was legal. We are already registered. We have to go to the DMV and register it as a regular vehicle. So I'm not sure that why we would need to register
Yeah.
that vehicle. What we're truly, I think what MTRAC was trying to go at was the commercial places that are renting or, these vehicles that they pay the $75
Right.
for the pleasure of doing that within the city of Cape May.
And that's correct. And people who are, in fact, trailering their own vehicle into town, they're registered. Wherever they live, they have to be registered. They know what all the
But they would
rules
need
are.
a decal based on this.
But they would need a decal, yeah.
yeah, that's all I'm saying.
What happens when there is a Cape May commercial renter? I mean, they're all outside the city
Right.
now. But let's say, the bike shop at
Yeah.
the corner of
Lafayette and
Lafayette Street.
Elmira.
yeah, they start renting these. Do they fall under this?
They can't. It's against the
Or
law.
do we allow it?
We do not. There is an ordinance that says nobody in this town can rent electric vehicles at all.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we don't,
That was the other question of this, is like, does that, would that entail some, like, looking at, it's because basically are we forcing all these businesses out of city limits because we have this dated thing from
Yeah, I mean,
1997 that,
you know, there was one right over there across from the Seaview, and they had to move out of town because council had, I'm not sure the reasoning, maybe they didn't want to deal with all of the issues associated with it, but now we're dealing with it.
yeah.
But are we
I
talking
know
about this
Congress Hall
Yeah.
rents and sells electric bikes.
motorized? These are
And, you know, Jim, I'm not positive I'm accurate about the electric bikes. They may be able to rent, you know, Shields might be able to rent it, Village might be able to rent them. I'm not positive about that.
Well, I am, because I went there to purchase one.
To buy them is another thing. Renting them
Well,
is
they
the
also,
issue.
but I also could have rented one.
If they're renting them, then yeah,
Holly, are we talking about bikes?
we have another issue.
Mike,
Yeah, that's another issue.
would it
Yeah.
make sense to revisit this 1997 thing on the back there? Because that was specifically about motorized, motorized with an engine, not with electric.
Well, no, it's
And if
like-
they're using that as an umbrella for this other.
Yes.
Not this, it's apples and oranges, because now we're talking about electric vehicles, not motorized
It's
vehicles.
still electric motor. It is. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, it's just a different fuel.
But we're saying two things, we're encouraging low-speed vehicles
Yes.
on the
Oh,
one hand,
yeah.
but we're
No,
prohibiting them on
I
the
get
other
it.
hand.
No,
It's-
And I think with anything, I mean, again, I'm also a golf cart, and I also own electric bikes, both my husband and I. And, you know, for me, from a handicap perspective, it's been a world of difference for me, because I use it as the pedal assist piece of it, you know, to get up those hills, et cetera. And my husband has one lung and one kidney, so it's been a huge benefit to us to be able to use them. But again, when you watch people speeding by with, you know, at the high speed, that's the issue, I think. Again, we're all talking about operators and how they're using these, you know, different modes of transportation, if you will.
All right.
So,
segues to that.
Yeah, so are we good on this? Because I know we have other stuff to
yeah,
to kind of, to do as well, and I think I think we wait till we get more, kind of the revised,
Yeah,
back from Dennis,
Yeah.
and kind of attack it from there.
we'll have another shot at Dennis.
Okay.
Basically, yeah.
Exactly.
just one quick question again, sorry. The one quick question is, are we going to recommend that this committee, needs to address to city council about changing that chapter 597?
I think what I would like to do is just pull the full ordinance first to kind of look at it, and then if we need clarification or we're going to recommend clarification, we can do it. But I think step one is just to pull the entirety of the ordinance and take a look at it.
Well, I think we just need to put that on Dennis's committee.
No, because he's taxation, so this isn't necessarily a monetary thing. It's just a, yeah, so I think we just start with just pulling the ordinance. And then we can,
Okay.
Recommend something from there, but I think we have to read the whole thing first.
Yeah, because this ordinance looks like it does not deal with LSVs. It's
Yeah,
strictly.
I mean, those
and
didn't
we-
really exist then,
And we
so,
said we
yeah.
weren't going to address the bike issue
Yeah,
right
yeah.
now, so.
So I
Can
don't
we-
think we add anything else to that at this point. We're just doing
Okay.
general research.
Can we task somebody to do that?
Yeah, I'll basically just, I'll send an email to Aaron, because I got to pull it from wherever you pull it from. Or whoever does the open records request, right, to pull it. So I'll just pull the ordinance, and as I said, I can send it out to everybody.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Okay, so moving on to kind of old business. I know, Mike, you sent out some updates from the city as far as sharrows and timing and, the process with the crosswalks, which are great.
Yes.
Kind of,
Yes.
you want to put that into the record?
Yes, yeah, so I guess last night we heard a report from city manager, and I guess the latest update is, he said maybe one more week, assuming that this weather, slows up, stops. I think we have sunny from here on for a while. But I think he said one more week for the crosswalks, and then they go back and they start at the other end, and they're going to do all the sharrows. And don't remember if he said how long. For some reason, I recollect 3 weeks to probably get the sharrows down.
Right.
But they will be following immediately the crosswalks.
Okay. Something else from last night's meeting, obviously we were talking about Lafayette Street, which has been something that we've been talking about for years.
Yep.
But part of the, some things that were brought up last night with regards to the speed limit reduction was some things like the permanent blinking speed lights and things like that, speed controls, and didn't know if we could, since it hasn't gone out to bid yet, we can kind of use this to our advantage. If it makes sense to reach out to Bob Church and say, hey, can you include some of those permanent, this is how fast you're going signs as part of that Lafayette Street installation? Because they are going to be updating a lot of that stuff to make sure at least one of those is included in that project, perhaps.
I think it's absolutely a good idea. It should be part of it should be added to it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay.
I know that there was discussion last night of where, I'm not sure what the conclusion was. Was it
Right.
Washington Street heading out, or, but
Yeah.
I forget
So
what he
yeah,
said.
again, since they haven't gone out to bid, I feel like it's a relatively, and they're going to be redoing all that stuff anyway, from what I recall from the plan, that should be something in theory that the county could easily add as kind of a, sorry, this took so long. We can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holly,
Yes.
let me know when I can have the floor.
Sorry, you're kind of breaking up a little bit.
It's Terry. I can have the floor.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so along with, I wrote some notes after last night because then they were talking about flip-flopping the work on Lafayette Street. What is key to us, if they do decide to flip-flop that now, we need to find out what they're, and maybe I'm thinking this is why there's the delay and they want to do the first part, is we're wondering, safe route to school, have they figured out what they're going to do at Madison and Lafayette? That's key, because we don't want something like Columbia Avenue center line happen after the fact when that intersection needs to be addressed. So, Mike, if you could bring that to the attention. I wrote a couple other things. The other thing is, of course, the school cutout. I don't think that's a huge issue. But again, that crossing at Madison and Lafayette. Also upcoming, and again, maybe they don't need to put it in now, but at least put the infrastructure, like the roads, the lines on Lafayette Street at St. John's, anticipating the new police station. Because we talked about the traffic light there.
Yeah, good point.
Also on Lafayette, Bank, and Decatur, if they're going to be doing that now, the crosswalks, I don't know what the plans are there now, but the crosswalks, definitely we need more than one crosswalk there. And we really should be pushing to get an electronic blinking crossing, like we used to call it the Hawk. I don't know what it's called now. And then the other thing is,
I missed
we
that.
have
What?
pictures of.
So Terry, hold on. Are you talking about doing the Hawk at Decatur and Bank?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, specifically, we would like to see that by the school, we would like to see it in other places on Lafayette Street because they are tough intersections. But right now, specifically, we really need to have that intersection with a blinking Hawk light on there. And along with that, which I was looking online, is it's the bike crossings there, and there are directional inlays for along with the crosswalks of where the bikes should go to. I have pictures of that. So again, I think that that's crucial, that if they do decide to flip-flop and work on that side of Lafayette Street by the city, which I think is a good idea, we need to make sure this other stuff is in the plans, or at least communicate to them the importance of it. Does everybody agree to that?
Yes.
Yes.
And
Yeah, so what, I think to kind of do that, if Mike, if we put together a list of like, here's our concerns for the design, that you could then reach out to Bob Church with, a specific,
Yeah.
list, or these are the issues that have come up since the last time we've done this.
Absolutely,
And then,
absolutely.
make sure that they're addressed. I mean, the police station, that's a huge thing. That's going to change that intersection in a pretty major way.
So I don't know if you all are aware, I forget how far this has been disseminated, but, there's going to be a turning lane now on Lafayette for the police station.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so there will be one, it's going to, going to have the cut-in for the school. Some people are saying continue that the whole way. I don't like that myself, but I
That's
think there
major.
needs to be a separation. This is the school
Yeah.
area, and then you come out, and then there's a turning lane, which will be for going into the parking lot for Lafayette Park, and a turning lane for St. John's. And of course, it will be a traffic light. There will have to be a traffic light there, so there'll be a pedestrian and a bike crossing, for anybody going that way.
Okay.
Just
So
so
we
you
said
know,
there is-
that's in the plan. I'm assuming if they're going to start from one end and go to the other, they're going to have to do that whole
Right.
cut-in when they do it,
Okay.
so.
so that's
But, yeah,
major.
give me the list, and be happy to, make sure that it's all in the plans and let Bob get back. And I requested before, and earlier on, Terry was asking about what's the design for the crossing at the school, and we've not seen anything. I asked him to make sure that we get the plans, this group gets the plans before they make a final decision on that crossing. But as you know, everything just keeps getting pushed back. I'm ready to restate it again. Let's,
Okay.
Mike, I can put something together. I'm halfway through putting it together, so I'll just put some together and send it off to you.
that's
We'll
good.
send it to the group to make sure that if
Yeah.
any of us have something to add to it as well,
Okay.
yeah.
Good,
Yep,
great,
yep.
great.
I'll get that out in the next day or two, because I got to get this behind me, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Terry, do you want to do the Bike Savvy Clinic report?
Yeah, there's not much. Unfortunately, it didn't, we didn't have a lot of participation for whatever reasons. Everybody was aware of it, but, everybody's busy. The few people that did show up, basically was, Lorraine Baldwin, our councilwoman, Mike, of course, it was great. Lorraine's husband, Tom Carroll was great. He came down. That was about it. Me, who else, Mike? And then we had,
Yeah, Zach stopped in for
Officer.
just a couple minutes. He was there shortly.
we had 2 police officers that were actively doing the drills with us. One guy kind of sat aside, and then there was another police officer that was just by the truck and watching the road. I think that was Walker. So I think it was productive. Paul was pleased. Even he felt that we had key people there, and that's about it. Would we do it again? Probably not, down the road if we decide to do a whole bike day thing, which we had talked about before, but that's about it. That's about it.
Okay, thank
Well,
you.
I ran into the chief shortly afterwards at another event, and he was very positive and said, listen, this is something we can build on. And he says, I'd like to see it continue. So, there you go.
I think the ride through town, even if you didn't do all that stuff before it, Terry, I could see us on a regular basis having some kind of training for anybody who'd be willing to do it, to do a ride through town with an instructor.
I mean, we could tag it to some events in town, like Gretchen was talking last night about the Ocean Harbor thing, or they're always looking for advertising booths and things like that. So we could tag something like that onto something else. I think probably the night out maybe is too big, but even something like that, we could possibly, further discussion, tag it onto something else.
Yeah.
Where there's a lot of people around. So
Okay.
that's all I would recommend if we wanted to continue.
Okay, great. Thank you. The next I have is the maps. Jeff, did you have an update on the maps?
We have none.
We have no maps.
So they're all given out. As a matter of fact, I got a call from the gal at the Ocean View Rest Stop asking for another case.
I have half a case of last year's.
Okay.
Want them?
Yeah, why not? I'll put them in my shed and then, anyway. So she was telling me that, listen, when people come, they want to look at the map. Our map is really effective for getting a bird's eye view of Cape Island.
Right.
Which is good. I don't know that they're effective for using on a bike, and you stop your bike and you pull out this
Right.
trifold map, but I do think it has a place, and I don't think we should give up producing them. I think in combination with the QR code, I think that would be an effective, it's an effective instrument, I'll call it, yeah.
Okay.
May I add something? As far as the map, I've seen people on their little Surreys, and they're trying to look at their phone, and I carry the maps with me, so I handed them, and they were so excited to have a paper map. Along with that, I question, and again, it's, somebody going out there, is how much the bike rental places are giving those maps out. But bottom line is, we do want to continue with the map.
Yeah.
And then I was hoping that Wendy got somewhere with the QR code, with the city website, trying to get it more easily accessible. With your all permission, I'll continue to pursue that with her.
Yep. Yeah, so if we are out of maps and we're going to reorder, I know last time we did this, it took a while. Is that something we should start the ball rolling for next season now, or do we,
Yeah.
or in addition to the QR code, is there anything else we want to update or change to it?
Absolutely. I think we might want to, because I know West Cape May is looking at changes they might want to put into it from the West Cape May end. We should do that at Cape May Point as well. But we may want to take some of the cultural and historical parts out and put in more safety, the new rule about passing lane, and maybe something about golf carts. Maybe
Golf cart,
we
yeah.
want something in there.
And the 20 miles an hour.
And-
Good
and-
point.
So maybe
Yeah.
we, during the winter, we reconvene and really look at what edits we want to make there, because now would be the time to do it.
Yeah.
That might be a great place to put the speed limits. These streets are 15, you know what I mean, to kind of advertise that, get people used to saying that,
So if we,
But the
how long did it take? Did it take I'm just trying to kind of backtrack into when we want to kind of have it done, right? So if we want to probably make the order by February, March, is that kind of, or if before?
Yeah.
February, so
February.
maybe kind of, around December to make sure we kind of get those edits together?
Yeah, I mean, I typically have been doing it in May, the distribution,
Okay,
early June in some cases, but I mean, the weather's nicer, people are open, that kind of thing, so, yeah. I mean,
okay,
you can't get an open bike shop if it's raining or whatever, so if the weather's miserable, you're not gonna be able to access those guys, so.
But you're saying about.
Okay. So we have.
right, yeah, so we
subcommittee.
get the printing by, February, March, so we want to make sure we have the edits kind of, December, January timeframe, just for our, because I know printing took longer than expected,
Will
so
we be meeting every other month or every month going forward?
that's up
And
to,
this has always been a subcommittee
Yeah.
anyway, the map thing, but I think we should talk about it.
Right.
en masse, but-
Yeah. So subcommittee, who are still our subcommittee? Hillary?
Yeah.
Myself, we can just Zoom all winter long about that. You know, if we're going to meet and a couple of times and try to finalize the editing and what we're taking out, I'm probably leaving next week. I'd still be glad to be on that committee, but if that's an inconvenience to other, then I'll back off.
Can we put it on the agenda for next month to
Yeah.
talk about edits and kind of flesh out what we kind of want to see?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think having it, like, you know, by the end of January, that would be helpful, I think, for the other towns too, so they have, you know, they know what, you know, their timing would be for making any changes that they would request to have on there too.
I think it's realistic to, if we could have the edits by end of February. with
Okay.
The way that government works.
Yeah.
you know.
Right, it might be March. Hillary, do you want to go ahead and just shoot a note to West Cape May and the Point to ask for their feedback and by a certain date or whatever?
Yeah,
Or,
I'll do that.
yeah.
Okay. Kiwanis Park, I see that seems to be kind of going through as far as the design process for the path around and the link to the Physic Estate.
I think that, I'm not sure how far along that is right now. They don't have cost estimate on everything,
Okay.
so.
Okay, I can talk.
I'm sorry, what's happening is, you know, after, of course, there was comments at council from my neighbors across the street on Michigan Avenue. You know, they had their reasons for not wanting the bike path there, especially one made out of concrete. And it wasn't a bike path. It's being described as it's basically a walking path. It wasn't originally intended for bikes, and it was suggested that the path probably was not going to happen because it was very expensive. And it's pretty long, and it's,
Are you talking about the path all the way around or the path just straight from the sidewalk to the Physic Estate?
from the sidewalk to the Physic Estate is happening. I mean,
Okay.
that's definitely going to happen. I haven't gone back to look at the drawing to see, I mean, I know that there was concern in this committee that there might be
Holly, I talked to her,
interference
right?
between the public, the activity going on there, and bicycles going down that path. I'm not sure that the two are that close to each other, but I can't remember. What, again, the concern is that there was going to be this thing going all the way around, and if you look at the property back there, it's narrow and there's concern. So it was suggested in the meeting that it's, you know, you folks may not have to worry about this. We'll see when the cost comes in, but you know, it's going to be quite expensive, and we may not have the funds to do that.
Mike?
Yeah.
Just a little background on this. About 3 years ago, 2019, this committee recommended to City Council the path coming off of Madison Avenue, going up to the Physic Estate and the tennis courts, which included a curb cut coming off of Madison and going
Right.
through. It also recommended that it probably be at least 8 feet wide. Again, it's a bicycle path with decals showing bicycles so that 2 bicycles could pass, you know, one coming and one going at the same time on that. And there was an estimate, and I think $40,000 was the estimate for that path, and it was considered too expensive at the time anyway to do that, or at least that's the excuse we got back from City Council, why they were not proceeding along those lines. So I don't know how that all fits into this new design of the total park and with a a circle around the park, or whether this would cut through or be part of that circle, or it wouldn't be a bike path, it would be a multi-use path for pedestrians and bikes. I think there's still a lot of questions out there from what we were talking about 3 years ago as a committee recommendation and a cost, et cetera.
Okay, and I should be able to get answers on that part. I've looked at the drawings, we've talked about it, but it was more about the playground area, the basketball courts, everything else.
Yeah.
I can tell you that there's definitely a path on that side.
Yeah.
The only concern, again, is, at this point in time, is one that was not envisioned before, but was drawn in, and it said optional, it might have said walking path around the pond for people to enjoy the pond. And
Yep.
that's where the neighbors said, please don't do that.
Yeah.
So let me, I can tell you this, if they don't have the kind of path that you're talking about, I think now is the right time to go back and say, hey, why can't this be a part of this design? Make this wide
It's
enough.
exactly why I'm bringing this up again
Yeah,
and
Okay.
pounding the table
Okay.
a little bit for it. And I think it's also important to remember, why is this a recommendation? And it fits into the map of getting people off of Washington Street on their
Absolutely.
bicycle.
Absolutely.
Because you have a lot of people coming from either the center of town or the east end of town, going to the Physic Estate or the tennis courts, who are on bicycles. And the only way to get there now really is to come around on Madison and then go up Washington Street.
Yep.
And that's
good.
not good.
It's not good.
So,
No.
I mean, there's a reason, a safety reason behind this is to eliminate bicycles as much as possible on Washington Street without saying you're not allowed to do it at all, which we can't do.
Holly.
Okay, well, I'll tell you, I'll commit to, number one, I will pull out the drawings as I see now what they're looking at. And I believe that Lorraine is the liaison. I think Lorraine is. So
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
I don't see what you're talking about on that drawing,
I can answer a lot of questions.
I'll talk to Lorraine.
All right, go ahead, Terry.
All right, so if I have been with Lorraine, I know her just personally. She showed me the original design. This all came from, they got money ADA compliant, that park's becoming an ADA compliant park. There is, I believe, 8 foot wide that's going through the park. The issue of putting the path around the lake on the other side, there's two residents that are balking about it. What the solution is, what they're looking at for a solution right now is that they're going to get the bulk of the park done on the other side of the lake and basically kind of put in potential phase 2 for the path on the other side of the lake. That way they can move forward now with the main part of the plan. So that's what's happening. That from what Lorraine said. There's going to be a needing curb cut across from Corgi Street. They're going to be putting that on the county, and that's another thing, with the safe route to school. So they're going to make sure that curb cut comes in, but most likely the county will be doing that. The path, it is a multi-path. I believe it's going to be cement. The only thing that I advised is that path is far enough away from the playground area. They are putting fence up. I don't know if they've done it already for the basketball court. So Lorraine really of that path, multi-use path for the bikers. So I pretty much on top of it. Hopefully every guys you can verify, but that's that's the story with that path. Going back to that $40,000 estimate, I remember a few years ago, we never saw any sort of paperwork that had actually been done. So that's kind of a moot point anyway at this point. So that's all I have to report on that.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any old business items that we need to address?
I would like to ask, Mike, has there been any final design for the Lafayette Street Park?
Final,
Like, I know everybody was talking about the uses for it, and then the police station's going in there, so I imagine they're completely redoing that, but I haven't heard anything.
yes. And I mean, I've seen drawings of everything. I don't think they're completely final. So, but yeah, there's been a complete redo of it because of the police station and the parking lot being moved.
Is there a way to just see those drafts, or you have to wait till it's final?
I
There was a
don't,
committee, and
I don't know that they're top secret. I think I could probably,
Yeah, is there a new committee on that?
I could probably get those drawings.
I'd be curious.
I don't think I have them at home, but I think I can walk upstairs and get those drawings. They're probably hanging in council chambers. Yeah.
Mike?
Do you want to, I mean, do
I
you
do
want to
have a
wait till
question.
next, when do you want to see them?
Well, if there's anything imminently being decided, I'd rather see them sooner, but if it's down the road.
Yeah, you know, this is, there's so much going on with all of there are 12 agencies involved in getting this park and police station paperwork completed. 12. And they're federal, they're state, they're county. This is just an incredible thing that's going on.
Yeah, okay.
So it's not happening, I mean, before our next
We
meeting.
need to
it-
know where the fountain is.
So I can promise to bring that and of course, the latest update on Kiwanis Park. I can bring all that to the next meeting if that's, you guys.
One of the things that we were concerned with the old park was to just make sure that the bike paths that are possibly cutting across the park over to Jefferson Street, that was the original, that we need to make sure that we want to keep an eye on the design, that the bike path makes sense.
If there is, even is.
If
bike
there is
path.
paths, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
One last thing is
Yep.
about the sharrows. Is the city putting in the sharrows, or are they having it professionally done?
That's contract, yeah, the contractor's
They know
doing it.
exactly where they should go, 'cause not everybody puts them in the right place.
Oh. Okay,
Funny you say that, Hillary. I've got a printout that, with Mike's permission, or actually I can send it to Mike. It's a printout. It's a drawing of all the dimensions and where that arrow should be off of a parked car in particular. So,
Okay.
Mike, I can send that to you, and if you can make sure it goes to Eric, or with your permission, I'll send it to Eric and copy you, however way you want me to do that.
yeah, send it to Eric, just say that I asked you to send it to
Okay, yeah, I'll
him
just copy
directly.
you on it.
And
but I-
copy,
I
yeah,
pulled it out
copy,
yesterday.
copy Mike Vole too, please.
Right, and
Yeah.
actually, on the side, I'll just send it to all of our members so they can see what it looks like.
Thank you.
Great, good.
Because we don't want the Columbia Avenue error, screw up where it's not reversible if they do it wrong.
That's right,
Okay,
that's right.
great. Any other old business?
Well, the wish list went out
Right.
to the manager, so they have a copy of that. Thank you, Jim. It was great to do that. I think that's it.
Okay.
I have a copy of the Beach Avenue plans in my garage
Ooh, okay.
that Mike gave me a few months ago. I'm just letting you all know. If you want to see it, I have. it.
Can you make sense of it?
Can I what?
Make sense of it?
Yeah, you can. I mean, it's all civil engineering stuff, but yeah, you can make sense of it.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, Mike.
Manager Vol walked in.
Oh, hi.
Hello, hello.
I just stopped down to, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize we're on. Just wanted to stop down to thank Mike and the committee for your endorsement last night for the safety of the community. I think it's real important. It's really important. And we did get some negative emails, however, they didn't show up at the meeting, so I guess they weren't really passionate about safety in the community as we are. So I just stopped down to thank you and give the councilman an update on some of the roads that he's dealing with. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank
Well,
you.
we want to thank you as well for your support.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. So for new business, I think the Mount Vernon path, is that apparently bubbling back up again as a possibility?
Yeah, Bob Morris is stepping down, or he has stepped down from his presidency, so
Okay.
he might be interested in coming back on board.
All right, I will reach out to Bob and kind of see where he is, what any sort of updates he has. Maybe I can get him to come to our next meeting. And we can kind of see where that go, yeah, because that would be fantastic. Okay,
And if if he wants to hand it over, then we'd be looking for a volunteer to pick that up. Maybe one of our new members can do that.
okay,
So,
perfect.
When is our next?
Yeah, so that's, the next thing is that we got to figure out when we're going to meet again. I feel like with this, the stuff with Lafayette Street, I don't know what the timing is, if that's something that we should definitely meet in person in November, or we can do just kind of a conference call in November and meet in December. I'm open to either solution.
Yeah, so what, I have to go up and talk to Mike. This is a letter from, an email from Bob Church. And it's like what we decided last night, he's saying it's not a good idea
Oh,
at all.
oh,
It's going to be a problem. Because there's a significant amount of drainage work, utility work, concrete work, if you start at the other end and head east.
okay.
So I think
So he's talking about doing phase two, I guess
he's
from the
based,
bridge back first.
yes.
Okay.
And I still, and I don't know why we would have a problem with that, because it's going to take care of the school bump in. All the drainage work, everything should be done by then. I'm kind of surprised they went the way they did last night. I'm not really clear on it, but everybody was thinking that was the best way to get the school area done, and I am thinking, well, now they're suggesting maybe not. This could take
Yeah.
paving into July, and that's a huge problem. So anyhow, we got things to talk about. It looks like council's going to have to get together again and get back to him with the new schedule. So
Okay.
let me, I'll keep you informed as to what the change is. But I think the good news is I don't care which end we start at, where we're ending up is going to be at Madison. So Madison Avenue will be addressed, and that's important to us.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
very good.
yeah, that's understandable. I mean, they have their schedule, not like we can change it willy-nilly,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
In terms of a meeting, I mean,
Right.
I think things are really cooking right now.
All
I
right.
think we should
All right, let's
probably
do it.
meet.
I do too.
Okay, so I think we are scheduled, our normal meeting day is the 9th, Wednesday, the 9th. Does this earlier time work better for people than 4:30?
Not me personally.
Yeah, I'm good either way.
Typically.
But actually,
I won't be here on the, I'm.
You're not here on the, all
I'm in
right,
Hilton
like I have
Head
a
on the
meeting
night.
tonight,
Yeah.
starting at 4:30.
okay.
So I wouldn't be here. So I got lots of other stuff going
Okay.
on, and this works better. I don't know
Okay.
about for you.
Morning works better for me.
Okay.
I like the morning, yeah.
So if that's sorry.
Can Mike make the 16th?
9:30?
Can Mike?
Yeah,
make the 16th?
we could do 9:30, but, yeah, just, okay.
All right.
So the
Is it-
9th, we can't do the 9th. Do we want to do it, bump it up a week? Well, let's see. We do the 2nd or the 16th? Actually, I can't do the 16th. Want to do the 2nd?
Works?
Could do that.
Can Mike be,
Yeah, so we'll shoot for November 2nd at
Phone's getting used.
9:30?
Thanks.
okay.
Okay,
I'll let Eric make the change.
okay.
Okay.
That works. Okay. All right, fantastic.
I just,
Yeah.
I just wanted to, I handed out in the beginning, when I
Yeah, sorry,
came
thank you,
in,
ma'am.
that's okay. I actually, as part of joining this committee, I wanted to get myself a little bit more in tune to what's out there in the literature, et cetera, so I did some research, and my question initially to Holly was, do we have, because one of the things they talk about in all the literature is having a master plan for the city around bicycle safety, and my question was, do we have that here in the city of Cape May? That's number one. And then if we didn't, what everybody's thought on this bicycle, bikeability checklist that I found on the Transportation Safety, Highway Safety Administration website. What this basically would do is you would give this, this survey out to potentially some of the biking community. People do a lot of biking, and they would fill that out, but it gives you some data on how bikeable the community actually is, and then it actually gave some recommendations. You basically come up with a rating, and then it comes up with some recommendations for how you can improve your score. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. I didn't know that we had it. And is this something that we would want to pursue? Again, trying to put together, if we don't have one now, a master plan, and have some data that kind of backs that up.
Yeah, so I realized I didn't give Mary the link to like the bike walk report and the kind of the resources that we have. So I'm going to get both her and Wendy on the Google Drive that has all those reports and things kind of, and if stuff like this we can maybe add, because I believe we have a safety folder, but, you know, kind of look at that. And we talked earlier that there was that, you know, safe biking community designation, I think Mr. Murphy was trying to get us to do, which was way more encompassing, like a much larger kind of process. That maybe something like this may be a small step in kind of to helping get to that, like, safe community, biking community designation or something like that. But yeah, I think
Right.
that's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're not there yet.
Yeah,
But
right.
this would be our start, kind of gathering data to be able to then show all these steps that we're taking that we in fact have,
Yeah.
you know, improved.
Fantastic. Yeah, and there's also a New Jersey bike walk group that is a really good resource for all of this, so I'll,
Thanks.
okay. If there's anything else, we can adjourn. All good? All right, thank you.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Terry.
Yeah, I feel okay. This is a pain in the butt, so. See y'all later.